G'day YouTube and welcome into the Purpose-Built Moto Garage. Now if you guys have been watching the channel for any amount of time, you'll know how much I love the Ducati DS1000 engine. Generally when we work on them though, they're inside a Ducati Sport Classic. This time it came in the form of an S2r Monster. I'm super excited to get you guys involved in what we've done with this bike, from our client John coming in with a concept and the body kit that he wanted to put on it from Paolo Tex, right through to the finished product you see here. Let's get into the nitty-gritty details and run you through exactly how we made this bike happen. Now you may have heard of Paolo Tex before. He's an Italian designer that does these really nice sort of avant-garde body kits for Ducatis. Our client John came into us, he was referred to us by a Ducati shop here on the Gold Coast because he wanted one of these kits fitted up. And although they are a bolt-on sort of kit, there is a lot of work that takes a standard Ducati Monster into one of these, particularly the exhaust, fairing mountings, all that sort of stuff. So John came in, we talked over the concept and got to work on this bike. He wanted a very specific idea, especially when it came to the coloring and the styling of the body kit and the exhaust especially. So I'll run you through each individual piece in detail and then come back to sort of how all of this ties in to make a complete custom motorcycle. Now the first order of business for John was actually sourcing his motorcycle. We ended up finding this Ducati S2r 1000 down in Melbourne. So we decided to save our client John a bit of money and get a bike that had already been metal with and had a few accessories on it that we were going to keep and retain for our Paolo Tex body kit build. Now this bike had already had the Öhlins front suspension upgrade off a later model Monster, so we started with the front end here. The body kit turned up, we unpacked the pieces, put it out like a puzzle on our workbench, and then started to put it all together. So we've gone and mounted the front cowling up here, utilizing a 7-inch flashpoint headlight. Now as the body kit comes, it should suit a smaller headlight, but we wanted to go with that big overt racer look. So we've stuck our 7-inch in there and modified the fairing to suit. So although the upgrades had been previously done, the forks needed a good service, so both the front and rear shocks have gone up to Joe at Ride Dynamics. He's completely gone through and rebuilt these and then anodized the forks black for us as well. That was a customer request, so happy to oblige with that sort of thing, and thanks to Joe for sorting us out with the suspension yet again. Once this was all back and together on the bike, we've gone ahead and fabricated up a really nice clean front fender here using our DIY front fender kit from the Purpose-Built Moto online store. Simple aluminium fender, some nice stainless steel bracketry, and then when it came time for paint, that's all been sort of color coded in to match in with the rest of the body kit. So finishing out the cockpit, once we'd had our fairing made, we've actually shaped up in place of the Perspex windscreen that the kit's provided with. I wanted a bit of polished on this bike, so as we were going through it, we had some sort of key pieces that we were going to raw metal finish or polish up, and the front sort of windscreen was something that I wanted to do for a while because you don't actually look through it. It's just a deflector basically. So we decided to shape that out of some aluminium, rounded that out on our English wheel, and then polished it up. That hides a Daytona W gauge here, so you've got a single dial face with both a tacho and speedo here, and your dash lights built into it. The bars we've actually retained. These are a factory Magura bar that came with this this setup. It's got upgraded Brembo levers and of course the Purpose-Built Moto 3-button switches here. So this entire bike has been rewired, ignition system, lighting system, and it's running a black box that's mounted up underneath the tank here. Final thing I'll mention on the handlebars here and the sort of rider interface on the front of the bike is our set of scrambler mirrors. So those are in the online store now, guys. They've just been re-released with a few select upgrades and stuff like that. So if you guys are keen, jump on and grab a pair. We are fully stocked and ready to send those out. A real crowd favorite of our product catalog. So the next major part of this project was getting this tail in place, so then we could start fabricating the rest of the stuff that went with it. So what was provided with the Paolo Tex kit was the fiberglass work. So you've got a fiberglass tail, we've had to make our own seat pan, you've got obviously the front headlight shroud and the 2 side covers, and then the exhaust covers on either side there. Everything else we've sort of had to make and modify along the way, which is sort of how we wanted it. I'm not a place that you can come and just use us to bolt on your own parts. Unless there's at least a bit of custom work in it, generally I'll turn it away, because at the end of the day, that's what PBM's here for. We like to make stuff with our hands and sort of get creative with that. So although this is a Paolo Tex body kit bike, there is a lot of handmade stuff on here that's sort of being left to us to sort of design and create. And then once that tail was in place, we've come around and started to shape our exhaust. Now this is a really key piece that John wanted included on his bike. It was a design element used in a few of the Paolo Tex renderings, so it was something that really grabbed his attention, so we wanted to recreate that in our own way. What we've done here is get a set of 2 Tomagnoni GP cans, sort of mounted those up and mocked them up sort of where they should have landed. And then we've gone back and fabricated the headers. So let me come around this side of the bike. So as you see on a lot of our DS1000 projects, the header from the front cylinder just runs directly underneath the case, nice and tight to the motor. Our rear cylinder comes down, and just here you have a 2-into-1 collector. That sort of runs up so we could get the exhaust pipe from underneath the engine up to underneath the tail as cleanly as possible before we split out into 2 again and then go into our muffler section. All of this is handmade stainless steel and with our welds finished back, and then just give it a nice brush finish. And after our few test rides, we probably put about maybe 60 Ks on this thing, plus having it dynoed with Cube Moto, so they've started to gold up really nicely. So this body kit comes with a lot of really nice like flowing shapes and stuff like that. And while we've impeded it quite a bit with these 2 big mufflers, it really gives this tail end a unique look and a super aggressive style. So having those GP cans protrude right out from underneath the tail like that is a pretty it's a pretty strange thing to wrap your head around and fabricate, but it looks just so nasty, and the way that it sounds is unbelievable. When I start it up for you in a little bit, you'll sort of see what I'm talking about. As they come, you cannot get black Tomagnoni cans. They came with a black anodized end cap, but what we've actually had to do once they were fabricated and put in place was really carefully, though these are expensive mufflers, so super carefully strip these things down, send them away to be ceramic coated. And they've just been really careful with the way that they've masked up and stuff like that. Ceramic coated the bodies, and then we've had to drill and remount our badges, and then obviously mount them up when it came time for final assembly. But I think the work that we put in here was well worth it, because it's a really unique piece on the bike and something that John was really adamant about that he wanted included. Further finishing touches on our tail here, guys, we've got a swing arm mounted wraparound number plate mount. It also houses our LED indicators. So these are our new Omni lights, our 3-in-1 indicators. Super nice piece and a really adaptable part that you can mount just about anywhere. So these are designed to go on your tail tidies, hidden in frame rails, all sorts of stuff. So we've been really enjoying using these in a bunch of different applications lately. So again, just keeping the tail section nice and clean, and then letting that custom brake light that we've fabricated be the real hero. So I'll run you through that now. Let me turn this key on. So what we've got here is we've actually used one of our Orbit Builders kits in the tail here. As the body kit comes, you have a tail light recess, and they're supplied with a light. I don't know where they come from, but I didn't really like the style of it. You can sort of see a lot of the individual LEDs and stuff like that. It just wasn't quite clean enough for the finish that we wanted. So what I've done here is recessed an Orbit light in there, and then we've vapor blasted the custom lens. So this is just a bit of a acrylic sheet that we've cut out, sealed in there, and then blasted. So we get that sort of opaque finish, and it just diffuses the light really nicely. And I'll squeeze this brake light now too, so you can see like when that brake light comes on, it just has a really, really good effect. And especially when it's dark too, this thing looks incredible. Yeah. Now, as we work our way towards a few other details on the bike, I just wanted to mention this swing arm. It's a real draw card for this Ducati S2r. something that, you know, people have replicated for custom applications and stuff, this incredible single-sided swing arm. So you have this beautiful aluminium tubing that wraps around, and then of course that awesome trellising that they've done there. So I wanted to make this a real piece on the bike that you definitely notice and you just wouldn't glaze over when you were looking at it. So this swing arm has been stripped and painstakingly polished to get this finish. We've actually put a few of these on custom bikes before. One of our Ducati GT 1000 builds, the sort of black silver one with the red seat, was wearing one of these. So we've done the conversion on that bike, and we actually had that one nickel plated. So this one here was stripped and polished just to sort of, it's not the sort of piece that you want on a bike and for it to blend into the background. You want to make sure that this is on display because it's just an absolutely awesome piece of work here. So that's been polished up and finished, kitted out with the Öhlins shock like I mentioned before, and then this the setup that we've got, the wraparound sort of swing arm mounted plate mount, has been done to sort of flow with that and match in on the mounts that were made available on the swing arm. Now, when we got this bike delivered, it had about 60,000 kilometers on it, which these engines can do a lot more than that without a rebuild, but because we were going so deep on this project, I definitely recommended to John, and he agreed with me that we should at least open it up and take a look. So the engine was dropped, pulled down and inspected. We ended up putting a fresh top end in it. So gone through, gave it a good head service, new pistons, rings, all that sort of stuff. Put it back together, the bottom end inspected fine, so we didn't go too deep on that. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been running it in. We gave it to Ben at Moto, who's given the ECU a flash and then run it on the dyno for us and tuned it up. I took this thing out for a test ride earlier today, had a lot of fun on it. So you guys will see a bit of GoPro footage at the end of this clip for that. Just another thing I'll mention before we move on. So you've got the Öhlins fully adjustable suspension on the rear of this thing. So, and because of the body kits and stuff like that, we've had to mount the rear canisters in a bit of a weird spot. So you've got your remote canisters and adjustments on either side here. So you've got one here, and then on the opposite side of the bike, you've got the other one that sits up in this little recess on the tank there. So further on the performance, we've run you through the suspension, the work that we've done on the engine. The only other thing that we've really done on this, new chain and sprockets, obviously that was just a matter of course during the sort of general maintenance that we do on all of our builds. If stuff's worn out, we replace it. But the brake calipers were also stripped down and rebuilt. When we got this thing, it was sort of, you know, it was a well-written and on paper is well maintained, but I mean, maintenance on your motorcycle isn't just taking it to a shop and having it serviced. It actually rocked up and it was pretty filthy and a bit gross. So when we see that sort of thing, we've got to make sure that we go through and check all that sort of stuff, because there's taking care of your bike and then there's real taking care of your bike. So this one was, like I say, serviced well on paper, but there was a lot of stuff on it that was a bit weird. And you know, so we've gone through the entire thing, make sure that when John gets this thing back on the road, it's going to be nice and reliable for him. His first stop actually is going to be coming pick this thing up next week, heading straight to Tasmania for a couple of weeks worth of riding. Just before we move on to our finishing touches, one of the upgrades that we've done, so obviously the high flow Termi exhaust, or custom made exhaust with Termi cans. To match in with that, we've got the flashed ECU and also an MWR airbox. So this is a complete airbox lid replacement. A lot of guys that track these bikes use that upgrade. So we've done that and managed to get a bit more juice out of it for Jono as well. So when it came time for paint, John had a really solid idea of what he wanted out of the design of this bike, because he'd seen the Paolo Tex renderings and absolutely fallen in love with them. A big part of that was the teal green frame, sort of that iconic Ducati green frame setup. What I wanted to do though was sort of take a little bit of that, add a few style pieces to really tie this whole thing in together. So from the changes that we've made, and I'll flash a little rendering of what the Paolo Tex bike looks like up on the screen now, so you can just see the differences that we've made. What we've done is add a little bit more green. So because these side covers here, they cover up a lot of the green frame, and when you have a green frame, you want to make sure that people see the green frame. But covering that up, so I wanted to sort of tie in a bit of that green on the actual bodywork. So we've used a little bit of it on the side covers and just like that little scallop on the inside of the headlight shroud there. And then coming towards the back, tied in this this Ducati like white and grey badging with some semi number plates on the back. I didn't want to chuck some numbers on there because I don't really like doing that on my bikes, but yeah, just sort of like a nice detailing on there rather than just having it plain silver. Also, when it came to the wheels, these were upgraded wheels that came with the donor bike that we had. So we've had those stripped and painted. All of this stuff that I'm talking about now, the paintwork has been done by Justin at Pop Bang Classics. So thanks Jussie again for looking after us with that. We use him on a lot of our builds. He always does a really stellar job, and it's good to have another custom builder that I can sort of bounce ideas off of as well, because he sometimes pulls me up on my bullshit when I'm going a little bit too far and getting too wild with my ideas. So really happy with how this has turned out. And then of course the cherry on the cake, Jamison from Timeless Auto trim with a really nice seat pattern, keeping things really simple. We've just got a nice perforated leather around the outside and then an Alcantara top patch. This seat is a lot more foam than what you would normally get with the Paolo Tex. So John, he likes to really ride his bikes, and although this thing is quite aggressive, I'm sure from what I've heard from him, he's going to do like a fair bit of touring on it. So, I mean, God bless him, he loves to ride his machines, which is what we are all about here. I love it when we're building this sort of really nice custom piece, but I know 100% that it's going to get used to its full extent. So super happy about that. I'm going to give this thing a start up for you guys now, get out for a little ride and show you how it performs on the road. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel because we have a heap of bikes coming out soon and all the time. And then, you know, in the near future, we're going to try and start bringing you guys into the shop a little bit more. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Let's listen to this thing now. Oh, music, music. Oh, can't beat that.